What's up, y'all? I'm so excited. When I say I'm so excited to finally be bringing Mind Your Fashion to you guys. Like, I'm just so excited. I want to say first, if you are new here, I am Dom Wins, a certified image consultant. I started this journey as a fashion blogger around plus size men fashion. So that said, men, come on and join the room. This is for you too. And then I transitioned to a fashion stylist turned creative director and a fashion show curator and event curator. So all the things creative, I'm your girl. With today's topic, rebranding, a very common topic that is shared amongst creatives, and it's something that I feel needs to be discussed with me rolling out this whole Meyer fashion movement. Simply because with concerns of psychology and its connection to fashion, we have to talk about how we want to show up, right? And a lot of times we are kind of greeted first with being the brand and not necessarily being Diamond or whoever, whatever your name may be. Like, that's not what people see when they see you. They see your Instagram, they see you as the person on TikTok. So when you show up, you have to show up making sure that your brand is properly being represented and executed. And I'm excited to talk about this and share more about what I see rebranding as from a fashion perspective, and again tying in the psychology of it. If you haven't understood the concept yet, that is for sure what we're discussing on this platform, specifically the importance and the connection between the mind, the human behavior, and what you put on. Okay, let class begin. Now I'm going to be using my iPad to make sure that I'm staying on track with my notes and things that I want to talk about, because I don't want you guys to miss a team. I don't want you to miss a team. That said, we're going to jump right into it and talk about the importance of rebranding. Little backstory. I am 10 years in, y'all. September 8th, 2025 will be 10 years that I have been a part of this brand, or I started this brand. Let's say that. 10 years since I've started Oxymoron Fashion Sense. It initially went through a rebranding when I relocated here to the DMV, because my LLC was Oxymoron Fashion Sense in North Carolina, and I like went back and forth with whether I wanted to keep that name, because as you know, well, many of you may not know, when you do an LLC, the names can definitely be the same if there's a different state, because you go through your state when you register as an LLC. So that said, it wasn't a matter of me not being able to keep the Oxymoron Fashion Sense name in Virginia. It was for me looking at it as a rebirth. And in that year, I believe it was year 7 that I moved here. And so in year 8, which was 2023, I battled with what I was going to do, but I also realized that I wasn't doing as much as I wanted. I had done a maternity shoot, and did like some birthday styling, but to me it wasn't the same as it was when I was in Charlotte. So as a result, I wasn't really motivated, I'll say, to keep the business going. Then I received a prophecy in April that motivated me to push the gas. You know what I'm saying? Because I've become so defeated, I would say, in being in a different city, having to almost like explain who I am to people, get the clout back up, and let people know, like, I'm Diamond. What do you mean? Like, of course I'm capable of this. Of course you should book me for that. So it's been a lot on my ego. It's been a lot on me mentally. And honestly, even down to like the algorithm of social media and trying to get the brand awareness going, it's just it's not the same. Because as a result, when I moved here in 2023 and I was, as always, doing a sabbatical, that particular year I had took 3 months off instead of the 1 month that I do in January. And as a result, my Instagram for sure suffered. And it was so sweet though, because some people, when I came back, I noticed that they were literally checking on me, because those who had been following me knew that I normally just do a month. But I was in such a weird space, I'll say, that I did not know what was next, what should be next, and how I should move. Okay, y'all. So unfortunately my mic broke, but aesthetically I like holding this mic, so I'm going to keep holding it. But going back to what I was saying, I just felt like in the end, I really couldn't find the balance between trying to navigate a new city, trying to find a new job because I moved here as an entrepreneur, and then trying to, I don't know, keep pursuing and pushing this brand that I didn't really know if it was meant to be carried on. And here I am 2 years later with a little bit more clarity. Definitely not doing what I was doing in Charlotte, but I think that has been the issue this entire time, trying to essentially do what I was doing there, not understanding that in the end, if I moved here, it's for evolution, it's for better. And as a result of me constantly trying to replace what I was doing in Charlotte and trying to do the same thing here, I've failed at it each and every time. I do for sure believe that it was the prophecy that kind of gave me the push, because in my mind, and like a lot of entrepreneurs know, you spend money and it hits different when you do not get it back. I've had consultations here for sure, like people interested in, using me for sure. I don't know what the disconnect is past that, in terms of like people really not having the disposable income to actually book and follow through. But that has been the issue that I found here. And to be frank, I moved here because I believed that the money was here, only to find out that a lot of people here think that they can dress already, and or they are so comfortable with themselves, they are fine with their personal aesthetic and aren't really looking or seeking for professional advice in terms of image. Now that we have the premise set, I did some polling, and I realized that although the DC that I was exposed to as someone who was from North Carolina, who would come here every year, whether it be for a festival or just to hang out with people who are from the DMV, if you are looking to actually be in the world of image and fashion in terms of design, that is more so the vibe here. Are you a seamstress? Are you a tailor? Are you someone who prepares people for galas and more black tie events? But what I was seeing was street style and New Balance. But what I'm now realizing almost 3 years later is that those individuals, they don't want help, because it's an expression. And that is something that I preach constantly. The tagline for Oxymoron Sense is, it doesn't have to make sense, just wear it. So the people in the DMV are totally comfortable with their style and their aesthetic, and they're cool. You know what I'm saying? So then I had to realize, okay, I am looking to attract a different type of client. With that said, I then realized that as a 35-year-old, I don't dress what I would say as polished as some of the other 35-year-old business people in this area. I still look very youthful. I still am very, I'll say sensual, but some would say provocative in my clothing. I don't mind a little breast cleavage being out. I do show my legs, things of that nature. But to me, I feel like I always keep it tasteful. However, those individuals who, are willing to pay my fee, they're not necessarily wearing the things that I wear. And I did some kind of post on Threads and this one girl was saying like my aesthetic gave like church girl, and I was thinking, that's interesting, because I feel like church people look at it as it being more provocative than they would prefer. But then I thought about it, and my business page doesn't really show my personal style. The things that I've worn recently is found on my personal page. So then that made me say, I need to start putting some different kind of content on my page. But then I also said, well, you know what? That's kind of on brand for me, because I am a church girl and I'm not hiding that. But it's one of those things where I feel like I'm in between, because I'm not necessarily doing like 3-layered church hats and ruffles and, stockings and pearls on my page either. So for those who aren't church, I would say consider me more of a church girl aesthetic, while I believe the church people don't. So it's just really been a very interesting space to be in as I navigate. But what I chose to do, and I think it was just an overall feeling, like I'm someone that uses a lot of color in my wardrobe, or once was, let's just say that. But I started noticing in fall of 2023, I started becoming more of a neutrals girl. And I think it did have a lot to do with like the trends, but I was very much so into browns, like on top of the fact that, I'm a brown skinned girl. It just looks good and it looks warm. And to me, it doesn't matter the season. It's a perfect go-to. Then I started thinking about the branding aspect, on top of it just being effortlessly chic. When you wear monochromatic, it just works without even trying. So that kind of speaks to the outfit I have on today. I'm wearing burgundy. It was very much so like a fall 24 look and all the things, but I really don't care. On top of the fact that I have this hair color, and I really was like, dang, I'm very much so going to be wearing braids all summer because the heat is just heating. Okay. So I was like, dang, I don't typically like talking about image and all that stuff with braids, especially with color. And then I thought to myself, this is the problem now. There is an association with color, or an association with braids not being professional, that I do want to be a part of that stigma and break it. But I can't break it if I myself was thinking twice about doing it. So the way I was able to make it still be a part of my brand, because I am a girl who does wear braids, especially during the summer. But leading up into my college years, I wore braids. My mom did not let me wear a relaxer. So this is my brand. Braids, my brand. And that said, I felt like the monochromatic of it all would make it look more chic, and then you guys would receive this whole topic a little bit differently because it's aesthetically pleasing. Now, when it comes to where I was with the browns and stuff, I started feeling like it was almost me trying to blend, and that's the psychology, right? So if they're telling me, oh, well, those type of people, they really don't pay, and they also don't have the coin. So the way you came here, very street style, very urban, that's not the client that you essentially want. So what do you do now to attract the client that you want? So I went into this whole monochromatic thing. I didn't wear as many colors, and it became very like uniformish, which, little tidbit here, as an entrepreneur, if you want to implement a uniform look, there's nothing wrong with it. Your favorite artist, your favorite actual painting artist, recording artist, whatever the artist is. Rick Owens, for instance, my man be having like a capsule wardrobe every season. He doesn't have a lot of clothes. He puts his energy into making them. He puts his energy into who he's going to style. So his actual particles of clothing that he chooses to wear, very limited. So as I started studying designers and things of that nature, I'm sitting here like, I have to stay focused, because in this era of social media and things of that nature, it is very, very, very easy to be caught up in the gray of being a influencer versus an artist. And I follow this one guy, and I'm going to show his page here. If you're an artist or creative of any sort, this guy is someone who's going to help you get redirected when you start to get lost in the sauce, because it will happen if it hasn't happened yet. With 10 years coming up in September, I have to say this man has helped me stay grounded. Now, let's be clear. I enjoy getting my Instagram checks, my Meta checks, because they help with my lifestyle. So that is kind of like that gray area where you're like, dang, but I'm trying to, utilize all these platforms to essentially get money, because that's the goal. But in the end, you want to make sure that you're still aware of who you are. And that's an artist. And for me, that's the creative, that's the artist, that's the creative director, all those things. And I can't allow myself to get caught up in the trends or the fads of it all with social media. That was like a little tangent. But coming back to the point of being okay with being muted in that season, because that's how I was feeling. And in hindsight, I don't know if it was necessarily me wanting to blend, but I was trying it out to see if that psychology of someone seeing the neutrals but still allowing it to be fashionable or eye-catching. And that has everything to do with the design of the particle, because things can be muted, I guess, being that it's monochromatic. But as you can see, there's fringe, the balloon shorts. Like, there's nothing simple about it. It's just the same color. But then you can find your way to add your pop of color and do your accessories. And for me, I'm not a hoops girl. I don't like hoops. It's just something that I just don't really like it. I play with it sometimes, but my brand, I'm always going to have like a stud or something like that. I love pearls. But overall, monochromatic doesn't always have to be boring. There was a time when I looked at people who wore, because my mom's one of them, people who didn't incorporate color. I just thought they were so boring. But then I realized, as I started diving into this whole psychology of fashion, there's something psychologically that had me going to those monochromatic looks. And as I continue to research, it was because it literally made it effortlessly chic. And even with a male, a guy who wears a monochromatic look, he just looks polished. And for those of us who don't necessarily need the exact shade, like I watched this older dude at Juneteenth, he had almost like 4 different greens on. For someone who doesn't have the artistic eye, it's like, oh, why he got so many greens on? But it matched in its own way. It was layered to me while still being monochromatic. So that's to me, an important tip to always understand for people who are anti-monochromatic, especially like my street style lovers like myself. When you really see how complex it really can look when you play with texture and patterns and, let's say, hues, monochromatic can be fun. So going back to the rebranding of it all, that to me was like my first phase, right? Because this same girl who loved color, street style, started being more mute. And I'm just using the word mute for the sake of the conversation. But of course, we've already established it's not necessarily saying like you're not putting that junk on. It's just that you're going with a more clean, polished look. So I found myself also doing that. Why? Because I went back to the office. And I know someone had asked me to kind of talk about that. So we'll discuss that more. But your job, that 9 to 5, the psychology of it will suck everything out of you. So what I realized with my 9 to 5 was that it was forcing me to blend with, let's be clear, the Caucasian people at my job who, I don't know, I'm too black for, to be frank. And then there were even the black women who were whitewashed. And not that they weren't black, but it was that they were so controlled by the perspectives of those privileged white people that they would like say stuff to my manager like, oh, she might want to be careful, we just trying to look out for us, because you know it's always something. But black people, let me say something to you. As long as you continue to try to tiptoe, and especially in terms of fashion, around white people, we're gonna get nowhere. Because a lot of them appreciate our ability to be unapologetically us. And a lot of times that is in terms of fashion. That is hair. That is makeup. Now, with us being work from home now, people being able to work anywhere, like this whole stigma that we have around workplace fashion. And again, like I said, I'm going to talk about that in a different video. But this example that I'm talking about, I found myself trying to stay out the way. So I really believe that's where the neutrals truly came in, because I was working with, or am working with, people who have no sense of fashion for real. Like I would be doing training classes and there might just be one person that gets it. But the entire class would come to me and be like, damn, we love your style. You've been consistent every day. And so it was funny because to me, that was my conversation piece. And so as a result, I always told people, especially like my manager, I would tell her, while they're not daring enough to do certain things, and again, this is even in me wearing my neutrals, while they're not daring enough in their profession to do those things, I inspired them. And I know one lady in particular who came to me and was just talking to me about her femininity and how, you know, she used to be this way before she got into the profession, but seeing me, it made her want to kind of walk back into that femininity. So this is her reestablishing her brand, essentially, because her brand was always femininity, being feminine, wearing flowy clothes, wearing the florals. But she found herself, like a lot of us, tailoring ourselves to be more digestible to others. And she wasn't even a black woman. So it's not just black. It can be your gender too. There's a whole bunch of things on top of like your profession and, you know, in terms of speaking to men, because again, this is for everyone. But the reality is there will come a time in your life where there will be outside forces that influence you in terms of your psychology and then how you move and show up in the world. And that is the fashion. So first, I want you to kind of be able to connect the two together to see just how imperative it is for your psyche to be together. Because if I wasn't in such a funk back then, y'all, I wouldn't have let that situation bother me at all. Because not for nothing, who are you talking to? But they really weren't talking to me, right? They were sending it through other people because they knew what was up. But like, I'm not going to not be me. Like, because at the end of the day, this job or not, I am a fashion enthusiast. I am literally a certified image consultant. Genetically, if I never proclaimed any of these titles, this is me. This is my brand. And no one, no profession should be able to change that. Because you're you. And that is why I wanted to start with the rebranding, because I feel like you as the brand is what we really have to kind of like start with first. What is your brand? Aesthetically, who are you? And then also helping you guys understand if that changes, that is okay. Because now this version of me in 2025 is definitely still wearing monochromatic, right? But I'm also still back into the color. You know, I'm back into the color. I'm back into the nails, being fun. And of course they're shorter because as I get older, it's just fun. But yeah, I never stopped doing my nails. That was for sure. But I did start wearing more neutral colored nails and stuff like that. But that was my identity. Like, I'm not gonna not wear my nails. This is who I am. And with the support of a manager, because I will say that's a huge part, especially in the workplace. When you don't have support, things can be so different. And I know for me, it wouldn't be that I would stop doing it. It would just be like more HR cases. And that's on period. But more of the story and what I really wanted to get across in this video, because I didn't necessarily want these to be like so long. I want you to be able to like get these nuggets and have them kind of resonate with you as you're like going throughout your day. But the 3 points that you should get from this is, what is your brand? Who are you? What do you look like? And meaning, what is like something that someone can always expect you to wear? Like with me, somebody can always expect me to either be very athletic and chill. Like my base is always going to be comfortability. It just is. Like I'm going to be comfortable. I just am. I have to be. So after you determine what your base is, like what are you doing no matter what the look is, whether you chilling, whether you going somewhere like nice, like, and of course there's exceptions, like okay, I'm going to a gala, I'm gonna probably not be as chill, but it's still something where I can get around, like it's still functional. So functionality, I think, would be the best word for me. That's my premise. With anything that I wear, is it functional? Now, if I'm going to, like a New York Fashion Week, and let's say an artist says, hey, can you wear this to my show? I'm wearing it, right? Because that's also allowing me the opportunity to expose another designer, on top of the fact that I'm honored, right? Because they asked me to style it and present it to the people. I'm doing it. But just your everyday, like, how are you showing up? So, one, who are you? What's your brand? The third thing, what's your mind like? What's your psyche like? Think about just how much your psyche affects what you wear. Just put this mic down because now it's just like everywhere. And just to let you know, I am a psych major. So all of this is literally a full circle. I'm just here to help. And like, if I'm not dressed up, I'm chilling. I'm going to be in a Forever 21 athletic set, and rest in peace Forever 21, because that was my go-to. The quality, I know y'all be on Lululemon, but the quality of that athletic line, Forever 21 was top tier. Now, I'm starting to do more of the TikTok shop sets. But 9 times out of 10, you could catch your girl in a workout outfit. And this was before the pandemic, let's be clear. I've been a spandex girl. I've been a sweats girl. But here's the thing. I also want to break the stigma of just because it's loungewear, because I know that was the whole like thing that the pandemic was centered around, like, oh, people don't want to dress up anymore. And as a result, people are getting bigger because they don't really know their true size because they wear spandex. There was a lot around it. But as for me, as we discussed, comfortability and functionality is my jam. So the psychology of it or not, I was wearing that. But again, my psychology is, am I going to be comfortable? My human behavior is, no matter where I end up going to, because sometimes I'll be one place and then I go to another place. Can this work no matter where I go? For sure. Because what do I do with my looks? I did an article on athleisure when I was a blogger back in 2017, and it's just kind of becoming like, hey, athleisure. But I've been on it when a lot of people didn't even know the term. And what that looks like is being able to basically throw some heels on and make it look chic. Accessorize and make it do what it do. It's about personal style. So yeah, number 2 is, what's your psychology like? So the difference that I'm going back to with this example is, are you normally somebody who wears sweats and now you know, doing something else? Like, that's me. Or are you someone who gravitates to sweats and this is not you? And you know it's not you. How can we get you out of that mindset? And then the third thing is the rebranding. So you got branding. What's that psyche like? Rebranding. So the rebranding comes in once you're like, okay, cool. So my brand is, I've been wearing a lot of sweats and I'm okay with that, right? But then the psyche is, well, wait. why am I wearing so many sweats when I know I'm a sports girl with a crop top? Or if I know I'm a floral maxi dress girl with a cute pair of shades, why am I wearing this? What's going on with me? Am I in a funk? What external forces are influencing the way I am presenting myself and showing up in the world? And then once you say, I'm actually not cool with it, I actually don't like how I'm feeling right now, then we rebrand. And of course, with a little therapy help, right? And I'll be having a therapist on here as well, my twin, Charmaine Joyner. She is the owner of Security of Self. She's also a licensed therapist. So I'm going to have her on here to talk about the importance of getting that psyche together. And she actually did a recent video about dressing up. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times you're not going to feel the best, but dress it up so you can get that energy up. So psychology, fashion, it intertwines. And in order to rebrand properly, you have to reflect and be honest with yourself and kind of see how you got to the space that you're in. And a lot of times that does look like counseling. So let me know if you got anything from this video. Like I said, there's more to come. I've already unleashed the topics that we'll be discussing, and I'll pop it up here for you to be able to see, so that you can make sure that you stay tuned and don't miss a topic. And as I mentioned, if you want to drop a topic that you're interested in that maybe you don't see on that list that you would like to hear me talk about, go ahead and put it in the comments, and I'll, check it out and see what we can do to make sure that we are helping you get to the better version of yourself. As always, thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you. I am currently trying to figure out if I want to create a new channel to tailor to the psychology of fashion, just the human behavior around style, talking more about the dopamine dressing, all of that stuff is forthcoming. But yeah, let me know if I should create another channel and separate it from my lifestyle travel content. I think I already know the answer, but if you want to weigh in, let me know. Until next time, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. See you later.